Would you have expected us to get here as quickly as we did? Feels nuts. Yes. Trump is greatly accelerating America's fascist demise. But yeah, I mean, it's what, 6 months at this point? We're nearing 6 months. Not even 6 months yet. It was like 5 months and change. And here we are. We bombed Iran. The genocide of the Palestinians are continuing. We are accelerating weapons transfers to Israel. Hasan has been calling this for several years, and every lib has been saying he's been exaggerating. I know. And we're here. Where are the liberals? We got concentration camps with fucking alligators on them. The lie that undocumented migrants are actually a national security issue has basically taken root, so much so that people don't even question it at this point, and that lie needs a solution. I feel like we're going to spend the rest of our lives trying to undo everything in this bill alone. Stuff like Medicare for all is taking a backseat to just defending the minimum we already had. Our imaginations shrink. Yes, because when Republicans come to power, they do everything they can with these kinds of budget reconciliation bills to undermine any kind of amenities that the working poor got in the past like 100 years or so. And they do it successfully every single time they're in power. And then the Democrats don't even claw back any of those gains. Like they don't even restore the normal order once they are in power. This is what is also known as the ratchet effect. This is where we're at. Where would you go live that's better? And they aren't concentration camps. They're not going to pull people's eyes out or gas them or kill them. They're just holding them until they can go back to their country where they came from. This is okay. I hope you understand something here. You're never going to understand this reality because you probably are completely oblivious to history. This is exactly what the average German nationalist said about the Jews. They were like, listen, these guys represent a national security threat. It's perfectly valid to take away their citizenship, and it's perfectly valid to put them in a concentration camp as we move them away. You know, we're not going to kill them. This is how the Holocaust literally happened, okay? Dachau was one of the first concentration camps built by Nazi Germany. It's the longest running one, opening on the 22nd of March, 1933. The camp was initially intended to intern Hitler's political opponents, which consisted of communists, social democrats, and other dissidents. It is located on the grounds of an abandoned munitions factory northeast of the medieval town of Dachau. After its opening by Heinrich Himmler, its purpose was enlarged to include forced labor and eventually the imprisonment of Jews, Romani, Germans, and Austrians that the Nazi Party regarded as criminals, and finally, foreign nationals from countries that Germany occupied or invaded. The Dachau camp system grew to include nearly 100 subcamps, which were mostly work camps. Arbeitskommandos were located throughout southern Germany and Austria. Prisoners lived in constant fear of the brutal treatment of terror detention, including standing cells, floggings, the so-called tree or pole hanging, and standing at attention for extremely long periods. There were 32,000 documented deaths at the camp and thousands that are undocumented. Approximately 10,000 to 30,000 prisoners were sick at the time of liberation. Dachau served as a prototype and a model for other German concentration camps that followed. Almost every community in Germany had members taken away to these camps. Newspaper continually reported the removal of the enemies of the Reich to the concentration camps. As early as 1935, a jingle went around, Lieber Herrgott, mach mich stumm, das ist nicht nach Dachau komm. Dear Lord God, make me dumb silent that I may not to Dachau come. The camp's layout and building plans were developed by Commandant Theodor Eicke and were applied to all later camps. Okay. The entrance of the gate famously had Arbeit macht frei, work makes one free. Work shall set you free. That was the phrase outside of the concentration camp. Also, the meaning of concentration camps has been lost on people. Concentration camps were more like brutal prison labor camps, while death camps like Auschwitz and Birkenau were places of mass slaughter. People died en masse in the concentration camps, but their sole purpose wasn't to fucking kill people. Yes. Also, the Trump administration has obviously talked about denaturalizing American citizens as well. There's also a new list that is coming down the wire as well, that will have a list of all documented American citizens. Thank God we also gave hundreds of millions of dollars to Palantir so that we can do mass surveillance on the list of American citizens, once we decide who is a political dissident and who is not a political dissident, we can also denaturalize those people, at which point we will have moved fully into the post-Nuremberg laws style Nazi Germany governance, and chatters will probably still be yelling at me when I say, this is exactly what happened in Nazi Germany. They'll go, dude, 6 million Jews haven't been slaughtered yet. It's like, yeah, yet the insane amount of money that is going to funding ICE in this bill is going to funding ICE in this bill because the Trump administration, as I have said over and over again, uses Customs and Border Patrol and ICE as his secret loyalist police, secret police service. Okay? They do warrantless search and seizure. They do not abide by constitutional protections. They do not care about the constitutional protections afforded to all citizens and non-citizens alike. Okay? I need people to understand there is a reason why they are funding ICE, because the number one problem with ICE doing mass deportations and setting up concentration camps is money. Okay? They don't have enough money to hire enough people. Now they have money, and then they will hire people. They will set up new facilities, private prisons, by the way, most likely. This is the distance in each direction from Alligator, Alcatraz to a hospital capable of doing anything beyond stitches and a Tylenol. Oh, it's like right here, smack dab in the middle. So it's either 155 kilometers or 50 kilometers to Hialeah. This is going to be a death camp. Okay? This is going to be an immigrant detention center that will be remembered as like the American Auschwitz, I think. It's basically tents in the middle of a Florida summer. Benny Johnson is flexing like it's a fucking fantastic thing. I don't think anybody realizes how impressive Alligator Alcatraz is. The state of Florida built this 3,000-bed federal prison in 8 days. The director tells me it could have been done in 72 hours were it not for some regulatory holdups. Now all the state needs is DOJ approval to deputize the National Guard as deportation judges, and this will become the most efficient deportation center in American history. The president says he's looking into spending federal money in part to put sharks in the San Francisco Bay. What?
Knife you when you're walking down the street. They're not new to our country. They're old to our country. Many of them were born in our country. I think we ought to get them the hell out of here, too. You want to know the truth. So maybe that'll be the next.
Once this is implemented, it's fucking over. Okay? Like, every single step being taken in this direction is not because there is a real need or a necessity for this kind of step being taken. It's for a larger project. Taking away the citizenship status and making American citizens stateless, okay? Not realizing that once you can denaturalize American nationals, American citizens, it will not stay with criminals. This is also, obviously ridiculous to do to American criminals to begin with, but it is a logical conclusion to reactionary ideology, because if you think the only solution to crime is more and more severe deterrence measures, more and more severe penalties, then yeah, of course you're going to fucking take away people's citizenship. What do you mean? You should kill them, right? Like, that's the whole point. This is what's going on.
And we are taking a look at the president now. You see the Homeland Secretary Kristi Noem is with him today, along with the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. And as they take this tour through what we're calling, because they do, Alligator Alcatraz, now we're getting to see why they call it that. There is effectively, and I haven't heard anybody else use this wording, maybe they have, but it's like a moat of alligators that encircles this place, as many sides as it has. So, what's interesting about this is it's exactly transparently what the president has been talking about via the governor of Florida.
So I would say he should call the governor, Kristi, and I'm sure you'd give him because his state is a disaster, and he doesn't do this.
Well, they have the original Alcatraz, so you guys could approve him being able to set one of these up over there. I'm sure the secretary would be happy to do that and provide. My sense is he's probably not going to bite on that, but I don't know that they'd be able to come in at cost because they tried to do this high-speed rail. They spent like $150 billion, no tracks. We've got a privately funded rail in Florida from Miami to Orlando, cost the taxpayers zero, and it's very successful. So it's just a much different approach between states.
We're not going to let him get anywhere near Alcatraz. It'll cost 100 times more than they thought. Now, he ought to come here and study this because he can learn a lot.
Yes, the first person checking into the room, sir.
Tomorrow.
Hopefully tomorrow, within the next 24 hours.
They have the doctors, they have all the professionals.
There's going to be a security sweep because there have been civilians here, so they will sweep this multiple times to make sure there's nothing can be used as weapons or any contraband. And then once that's cleared, then they'll do. So it's really up to Secretary. I know has got people in the queue, and so they'll be ready to receive.
I think our viewers at home should note that this is air-conditioned facility.
Yes,
so if any of the news claims are keeping them out in the hot, humid South Florida, that is wrong. It's probably 62 degrees here.
To be honest.
Hey,
Biden wanted me in here, okay? He wanted me. It didn't work out that way, but he wanted me in here.
What's your expectation what this will do for the speed and force of deportations?
A lot of things, and they're both telling me that these people come in here, they want to go home. And they want to go home, so we immediately send them home, where it's appropriate. Now, if somebody's a real killer, we don't send them anywhere. We put them in a maximum security. Look, what we inherited from this guy, this incompetent man, and his administration, which wasn't incompetent, it was radical left, lunatic, communist, whatever you want to say. I know most of them. What we inherited should never, ever be forgotten. What they've made us do. This is all because of an open border policy where 25 million people flowed in. From all over the world, from prisons, from all over the world they flowed in. For no reason whatsoever. We had, when I left, we had a very powerful border. We had no problem. He opened it up day one. He just opened the border, and people couldn't believe it.
That's right.
They were standing there. What are they doing? They said, go in. That's it. You look at the first day tapes. They opened it up and they said, go in, and that's where all of this began. But this is an amazing thing that they've done here.
But listen, people don't have to come here. If they self-deport and go home, they can come back legally. We will let them come back legally.
And there is a lot of self-deportation.
Yes. But if you wait and we bring you to this facility, you don't ever get to come back to America. You don't get the chance to come back and be an American again and work here. So
they weren't with us when the President and the Secretary Kevin and we went through the intake. So right when you do the intake, they have the information about voluntary departure. They have the ability. Obviously, you guys are funding that because it's a lot cheaper to do it that way. So even if they get brought to the front doorstep here, they still have an opportunity to just go back voluntarily, and then this way they're not.
Let's say they get in here like, hey, I want to stay here, I want to go back.
We can put them on a plane that day and take them home. We'll buy their plane ticket, go home, and then they get the chance to come back legally. If they wait and say we're not going to do that,
they can come back legally after a period.
Yeah.
President, you've talked recently about the idea of finding some way to get farm workforce and service sector workforce. And I think you've discussed somehow a program of people leaving on a sponsorship and coming right back. Can you give us a little more detail about that and why, in the view of some hardliners, it's not amnesty?
Take care of our farmers and hotel workers and various other people. And we're working on it right now. And Ron's going to be involved, and you're involved already. So we have a lot of cases where ICE will go into a farm. And these are guys working there for 10, 15 years, no problem. The farmers know them. We're going to put, it's called farmer responsibility or owner responsibility, where they're going to be large.
My MAGA mom's idea of what the purpose of the big beautiful bill is about. Yes, it won't stay or stick. They are showing the reality to the world of what the deep state wanted and seeing who in Congress is truly against humanity. It's all going to change. This will be short-lived. Oh my God. They're absolutely delusional. If they don't agree with something, they flip it to fit their own personal fantasy narrative and make it so Trump is God in their make-believe reality. Yeah, by the way, he just said owner responsibility. This is slavery. Let me run this back again. Let me run this back again, okay? Owner of a person. What Donald Trump is talking about here is humans, okay? Undocumented migrants.
farmers and hotel workers and various other people. And we're working on it right now. And Ron's going to be involved, and you're involved already. So we have a lot of cases where ICE will go into a farm, and these are guys working there for 10, 15 years, no problem. The farmers know them. We're going to put it's called farmer responsibility or owner responsibility, where they're going to be largely responsible for these people. And they know these.
Owner responsibility. I know he probably means farm owners, but I think we all know what he actually means, though, what he's signaling here. Because remember, earlier, Donald Trump said, earlier in the day, he said he doesn't want to deport undocumented migrants that have been working on these farms for an extended period of time. But he also simultaneously mentioned, we're not going to give them citizenship. No way. This is an admission of the ways in which we have the process of documented and undocumented workers. This is literally an admission of what I've been saying for years and years. Like the whole purpose of not giving the proper documentation to these workers who have work authorization is so that they can engage in indentured servitude, and they are utterly disposable whenever the farm owners or whenever the poultry facility owners, the bosses, decide that they want to wipe out the entire labor pool, only with the full knowledge that they can just like rehire a bunch of new, fresh, undocumented laborers in their place. This is an admission of how undocumented work exists in this country. The most famous incident that took place was with Purdue and numerous other poultry facilities, where undocumented migrants that were hired deliberately, that were placed inside of trailer parks near the Purdue chicken facilities, the Purdue poultry facilities, had a lot of issues on the job sites. Like they had sexual assaults that were rampant, and they had a lot of back pay that they were not getting. When they got together and demanded their back pay and made their concerns be heard, the bosses at the plants called ICE on them and deported them, only to turn back around and rehire undocumented migrants and put them in the same fucking trailer park. The Trump administration recognizes this reality, that the difference between someone who is a documented worker and an undocumented one is proper authorization, proper clearance is just paperwork. Paperwork that they can revoke at any point. Paperwork that they are choosing to revoke from a lot of the 500,000 plus Haitian migrants that are in the country right now. That's it. When people say, oh, why don't you come here the right way? What you're talking about is a lot of people who have come here the right way. People who are asylum seekers, people who got the proper clearance and the proper paperwork as temporary protected status recipients. But that can all go away overnight if the Trump administration chooses to take it away. That's it. Farmers are seeking empathy when they should feel rage? No, they're not seeking empathy. They're simply saying the truth, which is that if all of these undocumented migrants were to be forcibly removed, the American economy would come to a crippling halt. Undocumented laborers comprise, in some states, 40+% of the agribusiness. Okay? They are the farm hands picking the crops. Undocumented migrants, undocumented laborers are responsible for the majority of the agribusiness all around the country. I believe to 60% overall. Documented and undocumented migrant workers are responsible for 60% of all of the agribusiness workers. Undocumented and documented non-citizens are responsible for a major chunk of the construction as well. According to the USDA, 40% of all farm workers in the U.S. are undocumented. That labor simply cannot be quickly replaced, if at all, through H-2A visas or the hiring of U.S. citizens. Mass deportations would lead to the closure of many farms and cause food prices to skyrocket. This is the reason why business leaders are begging Trump not to do this.